My younger sister pretended to fall into the water to attach herself to the crown prince, but ended up in the arms of the capital's most infamous playboy. To avoid marrying the playboy, she lied and said the person who fell into the water was me. For several years of marriage, I devoted myself to scheming, managing the inner household for the playboy, and paving his path forward. But all I got in return was the playboy's gritted teeth and resentment. If it weren't for you, Warner and I would have been together long ago, and how would Warner be suffering in the Eastern Palace? I coldly severed all ties with him. Unexpectedly, when I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the past. This time, I choose the Crown Prince. I was reborn. Reborn back to the day when my second branch cousin Lynn Rowan pretended to fall into the water. In my previous life, Lynn Rowan bribed someone for information from the Eastern Palace in order to attach herself to the Crown Prince, deliberately falling into the water when the Crown Prince appeared. She calculated everything very cleverly. The Crown Prince left the palace alone without guards, and he was a refined gentleman. As long as the Crown Prince held her in her wet clothes, she would have 1 foot through the threshold of the Eastern Palace. Unexpectedly, the one who saved her was not the Crown Prince, but the most infamous playboy in the entire capital, the young prince. To avoid marrying this regular patron of wine and pleasure houses, Lynn Rowan covered her face with her dripping wet sleeve and said with a trembling voice that she was Lynn Royi, the only daughter of the main branch of the Lynn family. That is mean. So I became the young prince's consort. After going through many twists and turns, Lynn Rowan finally became Lady Lin Liangdi of the Eastern Palace. The young prince was the only son of the eldest princess and His Majesty's nephew. He had both the arrogance and tyranny of royal offspring, as well as the impulsiveness and hot temper of his father, the general. On the wedding night, he lifted the bridal veil and saw that the bride was not Lynn Rowan, whom he had fallen for at first sight. He immediately flew into a rage and smashed the cup in his hand to the ground. The maids and servants throughout the room shrieked in terror, but I alone remained seated and motionless, my expression calm, shattered porcelain scattered by my side. The young prince asked in confusion, "You are not afraid?" I smiled slightly. "You are my husband, I am your wife. From now on, as husband and wife we share honor and disgrace as one. What do I have to fear?" The young prince froze, seemingly lost in thought. A moment later, he backed down, and obediently drank the nuptial cup with me, and we became true husband and wife. I knew how to read the situation. Since I had married into the prince's manor and become the princess consort, I strategized and curried favor with connections, paving the way for the young prince's future, which was also paving the way for myself. Years later, the crown prince ascended the throne, and the young prince was enfafoffed as Prince Wrong, which was enough to show the favor he enjoyed. But when he got dead drunk, he gripped my arm tightly, his eyes bloodshot. "If it weren't for you, Warner and I would have been living together happily long ago. How could Warner have suffered so much? I wish I had never met you and let Warner become Princess Wrong." Hearing the resentment pouring from his mouth, I finally realized he had never forgotten Lynn Rowan, nor had he ever been the slightest bit grateful to me. He even intended to cross the river and tear down the bridge, driving me away to make room for Lynn Rowan, who had been cast out of the palace. I sneered and pried his hand open, dismissing the maidservants and servants. Then I fetched his most beloved sword and right in front of him, broke it into 2 pieces. "You want to drive me away, Dream On? From today forward, you won't get to touch a single useful thing." I ordered all sharp weapons in the manor confiscated, and had my trusted aides watch over his daily activities day and night. Having lost his weapons and being watched like a hawk, the young prince became like a tiger with pulled teeth, spending his days in decadence. Even when Lin Ruan died miserably in a Taoist temple, he showed no reaction, only shedding 2 tears in the dead of night. Later, he too grew depressed and melancholy, and soon departed from this world. I also shed 2 tears for him, then turned around smiling and lifted our son and daughter to high positions. Unexpectedly, When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to fate's point of decision, recalling the selfish, impulsive, foolish, and heartless young prince. In this life, I decided to live differently, to become the most noble woman, the crown princess, the future empress, even though in my past life, Lin Ruin didn't fare well in the Eastern Palace. And everyone said the crown prince had a white moonlight held at the tip of his heart. I still decided to go. I only want power and influence, not love and romance. The sun was blazing bright at the horizon. After finishing my grooming and dressing, I grabbed a bundle and left the Lin Manor alone. As I stepped over the threshold, the whispered gossip of the maidservants came from behind me. The eldest miss is so pitiful. She is clearly the legitimate daughter of the main branch. Yet she is bullied by the second miss from the second branch until she can't even hold her head up, looking all timid and pathetic. Another maidservant spat at her. "Look at you acting like a servant and pitying the master." I acted as if I hadn't heard a thing. Pretending to be weak and inferior was merely my means of survival in the grand estate of the Lin Manor. My parents passed away. The old matriarch was biased. My uncle and aunt from the second branch were cunning and grubbing, and my cousin Lin Ruin was hypocritical and vicious. I alone guarded the vast family fortune of the main branch. Without using some tactics, how could I have survived to this age? But now, I am going to make a different choice. I put on my conical hat and walked slowly to the area under the moon bridge. Not far from the Lin Manor, street vendors hawked their wares. Pedestrians hurried past. Yet I was neither flustered nor rushed, because I knew the crown prince, dressed in plain clothes, would soon pass through here. Lin Ruin had bribed palace servants in the Eastern Palace, and learned the time and route when the crown prince would leave the palace alone. She remembered the time correctly, but mistook the location, and ended up bumping into the dissolute young prince instead. Fortunately, having lived through one lifetime, I not only remembered correctly but also knew what the crown prince truly loved. Beneath the moon bridge tree, flower shadows sway. I set up the chessboard, black and white pieces crisscrossing, delicate jade, like hands toying with the pieces. A breeze blows over, lifting the thin soft veil beneath the conical hat, a glimpse of a fair lustrous face flashing by. The footsteps behind me came to a halt. A smile plays at the corner of my lips as I move the pieces as if troubled. After a long while, a gentle male voice comes from behind. "If the white piece moves like this, it can break the dead game." A hand with distinct knuckles appears before my eyes. On the finger moving the white piece, there is a jade thumb ring worth a fortune. The fish has taken the bait. I pretend to gasp softly in pleasant surprise, then hastily cover my mouth and rise to bow. "Thank you, young master." Behind the thin veil is the crown prince's handsome, gentle face. He stands like green bamboo, seeming to gaze at me as well, smiling warmly and composedly. "Miss, your chess skills are excellent." In my previous life as the princess consort of the commandery prince, I often entered the palace for family banquets, and had met the crown prince several times. Later, I used the young commandery prince's hand to serve as a strategist for the crown prince, helping him compete for the succession. The crown prince was a refined gentleman who treated me with respect and propriety as his younger sister-in-law, but also with the intimacy and care of family. East treats in summer, plum wine in winter. And there was also an indescribable closeness. Moreover, he was very cold toward Lin Ruowan. "Miss, you resemble an old acquaintance of mine." She was also skilled at chess. The crown prince suddenly spoke, seeming to want to probe something. He invited again. "Miss, do you have time to play a game of Go with me?" I recalled the rumored white moonlight of the crown prince and gently nodded. "Please, young master." That day, the crown prince and I played Go until the sunset was about to fall before we parted. Before the crown prince left, he seemed somewhat hesitant. His eyes were deep as he unfastened the jade pendant from his waist and handed it to me. "Miss Lin, you lost. I'll give this jade pendant to you as payment. Please keep it safe." During the game, I inadvertently revealed my family background to him. He learned of my identity. When I returned to the Lin Manor, my cousin Lin Ruin had already been waiting for me for a long time. She had changed her clothes, her wet hair hanging down, with traces of disheveled water stains remaining. "Where did you go? Without my permission? How dare you go out?" Lin Ruin glanced at me with disgust, her voice hiding panic. Seeing the conical hat in my hand, she breathed a sigh of relief, somewhat irritably tugging at her handkerchief. "In a few days, the eldest princess's only son, the young prince, will come to propose marriage. You tell grandmother that you want to marry him, understand?" She had always looked down on me. In front of outsiders, she was the fragile and innocent second miss of the Lin Manor. Only in front of me would she unscrupulously bully and insult me. Unable to cling to the crown prince, she used me as a scapegoat. I sidestepped to avoid her. "Haven't you always wanted to marry into a high-ranking family? The prince's manor isn't bad either. You can marry him yourself." Lin Ruin stood there stunned for a long while before she snapped out of it. So angry she nearly died, smashing several teacups in a row. The next day, rewards from the Eastern Palace arrived at the Lin Manor. The gifts flowed like water, piling up an entire courtyard. Second Aunt was utterly shocked, while Lin Ruin covered her face and wept, her face full of joy. "Mother, your daughter has finally made it. His Highness the Crown Prince favors me. I must become the Crown Princess." Her voice was really too loud. The Eastern Palace's head eunuch was extremely embarrassed and coughed lightly. "This is an antique chess set that His Highness the Crown Prince specially bestowed upon the Lin Manor's eldest young lady, for her to enjoy. His Highness asked this servant to convey a message to the eldest young lady. In 3 days, he wishes to continue playing chess with her." The small courtyard fell silent for a moment. The smile Lin Ruin had on her lips froze on her face, her expression of wild joy cracking bit by bit. She was dumbstruck. All these years, she had racked her brains trying to flatter and please the crown prince, even nearly falling into the hands of a wastrel. Yet the crown prince remained indifferent to her. Who would have thought that I, whom she looked down upon, had quietly gained the crown prince's appreciation? This time Lin Ruin's tears were real. "Mother, that young prince is the most famous wastrel in the entire capital. I don't want to marry him. I want to marry the crown prince. Lin Rui is shameless, stealing men from her younger sister." Her tears streamed down, while Second Aunt gritted her teeth. "Warner, don't panic. I'll lock that girl up in the manor. 3 days from now, you'll go meet the crown prince in her place." The maid I had bribed quietly informed me of what she had overheard. As if to curry favor with me, the maid whispered a reminder. "First, miss, you should guard against the second branch harming you." I smiled and rewarded her with 2 taels of silver. I wasn't afraid of Lin Ruin's little tricks at all. She wasn't a very clever woman. If she were clever, she wouldn't have failed to win the crown prince's favor time and again. If she couldn't become the crown prince's consort, she could at least become a concubine. If she were clever, in my previous life after scheming her way into the Eastern Palace by every means possible, she wouldn't have ended up being cast out to become a Taoist nun. She was greedy by nature, and also affected, pretentious, and putting on airs. In my previous life, after the young prince married me, he rose meteorically and became the crown prince's favored person. She was green with envy and couldn't stand to see me do well, attempting to harm me multiple times. Later, she even wanted to take my place. I rubbed my forehead, casually thinking about how to make her reap what she sowed in this life. Second Aunt and Lin Ruin wanted to deal with me. Perfect. I also wanted to let her climb high and fall hard, to get a taste of bitterness. That night, the old matriarch called me to dine with her. She had 2 sons, my father and second uncle, the first and second branches of the Lin Manor, the several concubine. Born young ladies in the manor had all been arranged by her to marry far away. Thus, the Lin Manor had become a place where she held all the power. She didn't like my mother because my mother only gave birth to me, a daughter, and father even swore he wouldn't take concubines. After father died unexpectedly, She became even more convinced that my mother had cursed father to death, making things difficult for my mother in every way, and cursing at her, literally driving mother to die of depression. As for me, she turned a blind eye. She preferred the sweet-talking Lin Ruin, letting me, the legitimate daughter of the main family, be tormented by the second household. After my parents passed away, Yangmi was mocked by my second aunt, and slapped by Lin Ruin. With a bright red face, I ran crying to find the old matriarch. She blocked me outside the door, her voice ice cold. "Young miss, your parents have passed and there is no one to teach you. It is only natural for your second aunt to teach you proper manners. Go back and behave yourself, don't disturb this old woman's rest." Then she had people drive me out. From then on, I knew that in the Lin Manor, I had no one left to rely on. Thanks to the goodwill my father had built up while alive, I quietly left the manor every day to study with tutors and broaden my horizons. Later, I even dressed as a man to learn from shopkeepers how to manage business and how to make friends. It was hard and exhausting, but I relished it. Because of this, I was able to multiply the wealth my parents left behind several times over, bribe the maids and servants up and down the hierarchy, and in my previous life, forcibly prop up that good-for-nothing minor prince. While Lin Ruin, afraid of hardship and toil, content with comfort, had only her looks with nothing of substance inside. Cough. The old matriarch coughed lightly, and second aunt immediately and cleverly brought up the spittoon. Everyone put down their chopsticks, listening only to the old matriarch's sticky coughing and phlegm sounds. "Grandmother, I found some fine loquats from the south for you to soothe your throat and help you feel better." Lin Ruan ingratiated herself cleverly and obediently. The old matriarch's face was full of smiles. "Wanner, you are so filial clever and beautiful. Even the crown prince would be a worthy match for you." She then accused me. "Ruyi, you shouldn't be hiding and hoarding. You should teach your sister your excellent chess skills too." Lin Rowan thought the same way. She stared at me jealously, her eyes filled with resentment. Second aunt said with a smile, "It is not too late to learn now. Eldest Miss Eyre, you willing?" All three of them looked at me in unison, each with different expressions. I smiled without hurry. I learned chess from Master Wang. Lin Ruan didn't understand what I meant. Master Wang was the chess teacher in the household back then, who later returned to his hometown to retire. I added, "If sister had persisted back then instead of giving up halfway, why would you need me to teach you now? With sister's slipshod attitude, I couldn't teach you well anyway." Lin Ruan's face turned red with anger, tears fell down. How pitiful. The old matriarch was also furious, grabbing her cane to beat me. I remained motionless and said indifferently, "If His Highness the Crown Prince asks where the injuries on my body came from, I'll say it is because I refused to take my sister's place in marrying the junior prince, and grandmother beat me." Everyone's expressions changed in unison again. The cane in the old madam's hand also lost its force, and fell to the ground with a thud. I sneered inwardly, turned around and left. That night, my sister came to my courtyard bashfully. She held several boxes of rouge and fragrant powder, apologizing to me. "Sister, I'll make the junior prince keep quiet, so please don't tell anyone. We're both young ladies of the Lin Manor. If my reputation is ruined, sister won't be able to marry into the Eastern Palace either. These boxes are all the most famous Dai Chunlin fragrant powder and rouge in the capital, very good quality. I use them too. Please accept them, sister." She pretended to be obedient, her reddened eyes looking pitiful. I nodded and accepted them. Under the flickering candlelight, I examined the fragrant powder over and over. The packaging seals were all intact, except there was a tiny hole on the back of the powder box. I summoned my personal maidservant. "Go fetch Bai He from Lin Ruin's courtyard." Second aunt and Lin Ruin both thought that since they'd never seen me use Dai Chunlin fragrant powder, they could use it to frame me. Unfortunately, my knowledge far exceeds theirs. So I am waiting to watch them reap what they sow. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye, and it was the day of the chess appointment with the crown prince. Before departure, Lin Ruin pestered me. She smiled, wanting to help me dress up and apply makeup. Sister, why don't you use the fragrant powder I gave you? His Highness the Crown Prince will definitely like it. That box of still, sealed fragrant powder lay quietly in the corner of the vanity. I shook my head. I've never used it. Don't want to use it. Lin Ruin brought her face close to mine. On her fair and tender face, fine powder was evenly applied, giving off a delicate fragrance. She blinked. Sister, I knew you hadn't used it. Look, I applied it today too. Doesn't it look good? Right after saying that, she opened that box of fragrant powder on her own and carefully applied it on me. The maidservant was too late to stop her. I sat calmly, quietly watching that smug smile at the corner of her lips in the bronze mirror. There seemed to be a strange smell coming. Very faint. It quickly dispersed again. After another half hour, the grooming and dressing were finally done. Lin Ruin pestered me, wanting to go see the crown prince together with me. The old madam sent over a matron who half threatened, half coaxed me into taking her along. First miss, just let second miss show her face in front of His Highness. If you don't even care about this bit of sisterly affection, first miss's reputation won't sound good, I asked meaningfully. Sister really wants to go? Lin Ruin nodded. So we nodded too. The bright sun shone high, still good weather. The crown prince sat peacefully on the stone bench beside the moon bridge. Only now, there were many more guards around him. A noblewoman dressed as an Eastern palace nanny, but with an elegant and dignified bearing stood quietly behind him. She is the nanny who has looked after me since I was young. The crown prince introduced, but I recognized her. She was the empress's younger sister, Prince Qin's principal consort, someone of extremely noble status. I bowed to the crown prince, my cheeks slightly flushed. Greetings to your highness. Yesterday, this commoner girl did not know your highness's noble status and was lacking in propriety. Please forgive me, your highness. 5 parts a young lady's bashfulness, 5 parts dignified propriety. I had the balance just right. The princess consort of Qin's eyes brightened. Without the conical hat blocking the view, the crown prince's refreshingly handsome features were even clearer. He still wore that same gentle smile, reaching out to support me courteously, and was about to speak. Lin Ruin suddenly interjected. This commoner Lin Ruin also pays her respects to your highness, wishing your highness success in all endeavors, health and happiness. Not only that, she even took out a mandarin duck sachet and presented it with both hands before the crown prince. This commoner specially sewed a sachet for your highness and wishes to present it to your highness. Lin Ruin had never been this close to the crown prince before. Her expression was excited, her hands trembling, her eyes slightly raised, sending flirtatious glances to the crown prince with tender affection like water. A mandarin duck sachet, carrying the meaning of courtship. If it were among common folk, it might even become a lovely tale, but the royal family's selection of a daughter. In-law places the highest importance on propriety and decorum. The Prince of Qin's consort frowned, looking at her with impatience and contempt. Lin Ruin hoped for the crown prince's favor, but made a fool of herself without realizing it. She was already out of the running. I pulled her hand back. My cousin is short-sighted and behaves improperly. Please forgive her, your highness. Lin Ruin nearly ground her teeth to dust. She even wanted to curse at me. Lin Rui, you are not even crown princess yet, and you are already trying to make decisions for his highness. I replied calmly. Cousin, watch your words. Lin Ruin was nearly dying of anger. In contrast to her, I appeared all the more dignified, gracious, sensible, and well-mannered. I knew that the Empress liked women like this. In my previous life, the crown princess she selected for the crown prince was exactly like this. I also knew that the emperor didn't want the crown prince to marry a crown princess from a powerful noble family, to prevent the maternal relatives from growing too powerful like the empress's family. The Prince of Qin's consort's gaze carried a hint of approval as she looked over discreetly. I was quite confident. The crown prince paid no attention to Lin Ruin, his eyes only on me. Miss Lin, we left our chess game unfinished that day. Do you have time today to decide the victor? I smiled softly. All right. With my last glance, I caught sight of Lin Ruin clutching the mandarin duck sachet in her hand, unwilling to accept defeat. While playing chess with the crown prince, Lin Ruin suddenly became very quiet. She seemed to be waiting for something. I paid her no mind, focusing wholeheartedly on the game. The crown prince's chess skills always feel so familiar to me. A breeze blows by the lake, carrying wisps of willow catkins that make one itch. A guard rubbed his nose, coughed a few times, and brushed away the willow catkins. Following with a cough was Lin Rowan. She had covered her mouth with a handkerchief, coughing lightly and carefully, then patted the willow catkins off her dress with distaste. But soon, the coughing grew louder and louder, unable to stop. On her flushed cheeks, rashes of various sizes also appeared. It seemed to itch terribly, as she desperately gasped for air and scratched, tears welling up in the corners of her eyes, her skin left with red marks. The princess consort of Qin frowned, her vermilion lips parting slightly. The crown prince also coughed a few times. Red marks spread across the crown prince's face, with rashes erupting one after another. The princess consort of Qin couldn't sit still any longer. Shocked, she held the crown prince's shoulders and examined his reddened, itchy face. She immediately called out repeatedly for the imperial physician, then pointed at Lin Rowan. There is something wrong with this woman. Seize her. The princess consort of Qin was in a complete panic. While dispatching someone to send word to the palace, she had the crown prince settled in the nearest marquise's residence. As it happened, it was the young prince's residence. Everyone at the scene was detained. However, I was free to move around, with maids serving me tea and water, bringing snacks and dried fruits. Lin Ruin, however, was tightly guarded, trapped in a corner, unable to move. She originally wanted to use the fragrant powder to make me lose face, so I would lose the crown prince's favor, and she would have her chance. Who would have thought the one who got into trouble was herself? To put it lightly, it was an unintentional mistake, and punishment would suffice. To put it seriously, however, it was attempted harm against the heir apparent, a grave crime punishable by extermination of the entire clan. Lin Ruin was so scared her whole body was trembling, and the itching was unbearably painful. She was on the verge of fainting. Soon, the young prince rushed back to the manor. The Prince of Qin's wife was taking care of the crown prince and had no time to see him, so he came to our room. With just one glance, he saw Lin Ruan. Miss Lin. The young prince was dumbfounded. Lin Ruan couldn't care about anything else and choked out a cry for help. Young prince, I feel terrible. Quickly have someone untie me and let the imperial physician examine me. The young prince felt extremely distressed, striding over with big steps, about to come to her rescue. I stopped him. This matter is of great importance, involving the crown prince. I asked the young prince not to act rashly. My expression was worried, my tone sincere, but the young prince didn't appreciate it, his face full of anger as he shoved me aside. Mind your own business? He was strong, pushing me so I staggered backward. I went with the momentum, turning my body to steady myself, and from the corner of my eye caught sight of the Prince of Qin's wife angrily stepping through the threshold. Stop! The young prince is truly so imposing. The Prince of Qin's wife's voice was icy cold, full of anger. The young prince's arrogance instantly deflated. He shrugged his neck and greeted her with an awkward smile. Greetings to the princess consort. The princess consort of Qin sneered again. This girl is under this princess consort's supervision. Miss Lin is sensible and understands the severity of this matter. She earnestly advised you, yet you don't appreciate it. What, do you have an illicit affair with this girl? When Lin Ruin heard the words princess consort, she was already dumbstruck. When the words illicit affair reached her ears, she felt even more humiliated and mortified. Princess consort, I didn't. Do you know or not that the imperial physician has already verified that sulfur powder was mixed into this girl's fragrant powder? She deliberately tried to harm your cousin, to harm the current crown prince. The side room fell into complete silence. I lowered my eyes, sitting quietly below the princess consort of Qin. The young prince opened his mouth dumbly, looking at Lin Rowan one moment, then at the princess consort of Qin the next. Lin Rowan was already crying so hard she could barely catch her breath. Princess consort, I've been wronged. Guilt flashed across her face for a moment, then was quickly replaced by terror. She had originally wanted to harm me. That day, she spent a large sum to bribe palace servants of the Eastern Palace, and even found out that the crown prince was allergic to sulfur powder, and absolutely could not be exposed to it. The palace servant had good intentions, not wanting Lin Ruin to make a mistake, but it backfired. But Lin Ruin's eyes darted around, and she immediately thought of mixing sulfur powder used for fumigation into the fragrant powder to frame me. If I caused the crown prince to have an allergic reaction, it would mean I am incompatible with the crown prince and couldn't enter the Eastern Palace. I might even be detested and punished by the crown prince. There would be no good place for me in the entire capital. But she didn't expect that I had secretly switched the fragrant powder and added something extra. Now, the one with a red, swollen and itchy face is her, and the one suspected of attempting to harm the crown prince has also become her. The princess consort of Qin was extremely furious, her chest heaving violently up and down, her eyes filled with rage as she looked at Lin Rowan. You are still making excuses. Lin Ruin's tears flowed freely. Fortunately, there was still the brainless young prince who believed her. Princess consort second Miss Lin has also suffered from this. How could she be the real culprit? It must be this first Miss Lin framing her. Lin Ruin, as if finding her savior, hastily nodded. Yes, it is my older sister who harmed me. I used the Daichunlin fragrant powder that my sister gave me. It was my sister who mixed something into it. The two spoke with conviction. I remained calm and composed. Princess consort, I have never used Daishunlin fragrant powder, nor have I ever bought it. A check at the shop will reveal the truth. On the contrary, after meeting with His Highness the Crown Prince that day, my younger sister gave me a box, and this morning before going out, she was the one who applied it on me. The implications in my words were clear and obvious. How could the princess consort of Qin, who had been immersed in the palace for decades, not understand? She glared at Lin Ruin with contempt, already believing me somewhat. Lin Ruin shuddered and cried out in despair. Your Highness, please forgive me. I remembered wrong. I was the one who ordered someone to buy the scented powder. But I didn't know the crown prince was allergic to sulfur powder. This was purely an accident. I would never dare to harm the crown prince. The princess consort of Qin waved her hand. A palace maid was brought forward under guard. Lin Rowan's eyes contracted sharply, panic-stricken. Miss Linner gave this servant 50 taels of silver to find out about His Highness the Crown Prince's schedule, and also asked what His Highness likes and dislikes. She even inquired thoroughly about what the Crown Prince is allergic to, and what he absolutely cannot touch. The palace maid wept, her face full of terror. Afterwards, the shopkeeper from the Dai Chunlin scented powder shop was also brought in. The shopkeeper knelt cautiously and said, Miss Linner from the Lin residence is a regular customer at our shop and makes frequent purchases. The maid demanded. Besides Miss Linner, does anyone else from the Lin residence buy from you? The shopkeeper pondered for a moment and shook his head. I once asked Miss Linner's maid whether Miss Lindia doesn't like using our scented powder. Monsieur's maid sneered and said, What does the eldest miss amount to? She has no taste and doesn't deserve to use it. He imitated the maid's sharp and caustic voice to perfection. Lin Ruin was dumbfounded. She hadn't expected the princess consort of Qin to investigate so quickly. From gathering information to purchasing fragrant powder, even the shop that fumigated white sulfur powder was found one by one. She reaped what she sowed, unable to voice her grievances. Second, Miss Lin is innocent and naive. Perhaps there are hidden circumstances. The young prince was still stubbornly defending Lin Ruin. The Princess of Qin only sneered coldly. The Grand Princess is so clever and sharp. How did she give birth to such a foolish son like you? I know. That day she fell into the water. You saved her. And you fell for her, didn't you? The young prince scratched his head. His face slightly flushed. Fool! Don't you think about what day it was when she fell into the water? It was the day the crown prince went out of the palace alone. She wanted to climb up to the crown prince, but you picked up the bargain instead. Who knows how much she resents you in her heart, yet you stupidly fell in love with her. The Princess of Qin's voice was mocking, her gaze contemptuous. The look that swept over Lin Ruin was like a knife, cutting her until all color drained from her face, trembling uncontrollably. The young prince froze. That is impossible. Hemph. The princess sneered coldly. The young prince's face gradually flushed red with shame and anger, and he hurriedly ran off. Lin Ruin cried even more miserably. Amidst the waves of wretched sobbing, footsteps gradually approached. The crown prince had awakened, and was barely supporting his body as he walked over, leaning against the doorway gasping for breath. Under the imperial physician's treatment, the redness and swelling on his face had completely subsided, but his lips were still pale. Supporting the hand that the Princess of Qin anxiously extended, he looked toward me, smiled faintly, and gave me a reassuring glance. Aunt, we cannot ruin Miss Lin's reputation. His clear and elegant voice was firm and powerful. The Princess of Qin understood. Meeting the Crown Prince's gentle gaze, I understood too. If he wanted to marry me, he couldn't let my sister bear the grave crime of plotting to harm the Crown Prince. This matter must be suppressed. The Princess of Qin pondered. I'll enter the palace right away to discuss this with the Empress. The Crown Prince nodded. Thank you for your trouble, Aunt. Lin Ruin completely collapsed to the ground. If this matter is reported to the Empress, she will surely be furious. The death penalty may be avoided, but punishment cannot be escaped. Not only will she never be able to marry the Crown Prince in this lifetime, she won't even be able to marry into any of the notable prestigious families in the capital. Her eyelids rolled back, and Lin Ruin fainted. Before leaving, the Princess of Qin also ordered that Lin Ruin be slapped 10 times on the mouth, then sent back to the Lin residence to reflect on her mistakes behind closed doors. Thus, the unconscious Lin Ruin was splashed awake with a basin of cold water and immediately received her punishment. She was already in pain, her limp body unable to put up any resistance, her weak cries pitiful to hear. As for me, I was specifically kept behind by the Crown Prince. In the secluded courtyard, the maidservants and eunuchs were all dismissed. The Crown Prince leaned back in his chair and personally poured me a cup of tea. I accepted the tea, and following along his slender, well-defined hand, my gaze traveled all the way up to meet his tender eyes. Me heart felt like it had been stabbed. It is as if a long time ago, I had encountered such a gaze before exactly. When was it? The Crown Prince asked. Did I scare you? I snapped back to my senses, smiled lightly and shook my head. I am only worried about you, and worried that my position as Crown Princess wouldn't be secure. The corners of the Crown Prince's pale lips curved up slightly, smiling with crescent eyes. Thank you for your concern, I feel much better now. I will request an imperial decree from Father Emperor to grant our marriage. Miss Lin, are you willing? His tender gaze looked deeply toward me. Inside, it felt like a ball of fire was surging up. In the fire, there was joy from being appreciated and favored by the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince was handsome and gentle, with a noble status. Being loved by him was always a good thing that made one's heart flutter. Even more so was the satisfaction of having power and status about to be in hand. I nodded with delight. The Crown Prince's body was still weak. After a few games of chess, he ordered someone to escort me away. When I returned to the estate, the entire Lin family estate was already in a state of panic. A servant woman quietly told me that an hour ago, Lin Ruin was sent back to the estate in a disheveled state. second aunt cried Earth, shatteringly, and the old matriarch was furious beyond measure. They were waiting for me to return to severely punish me, second aunt cried. Eldest Miss Auntie knows you hate me, hate the entire Lin family, but how innocent is Wanner? How could you harm her? I beg mother, in-law to give Wanner justice. The old madam scolded with spittle flying. Lin Rui, kneel down. Wanner is your sister, yet you framed her. The Lin family cannot tolerate a woman like you. The two of them both thought I was still that eldest legitimate daughter from the main branch, who pretended to be timid and easily bullied, waiting for me to kneel and beg for mercy. Unexpectedly, I laughed out loud. Grandmother, didn't the people sent by the princess consort tell you why Lin Ruin was punished? The old madam choked up and waved her hand to smash a teacup in front of me. You framed Wanner, and you still dare to argue? The shattered fragments splattered dust all over the ground. I casually shifted my body to the side, putting on an obedient posture and smiled slightly. Grandmother, how do you want to deal with me? Will you expel me from the Lin family? Or beat me up and lock me in the ancestral hall? Or starve me for 10 days to half a month to teach me a lesson? In my childhood, these were the old madam's usual tactics, threatening to expel me from the Lin family, letting me fall into becoming a little beggar, trampled by others, locking me in the ancestral hall, giving me only one bowl of clear water each day. I was starved until dizzy and seeing stars, crying with tears streaming down, only able to scrape some incense ash to fill my stomach. When my consciousness was hazy, I murmured, calling for my parents. It seemed like there was a voice responding to me, forcing my eyes open with effort. What I heard instead was Lin Ruin's disdainful and contemptuous voice. Call for your parents? Your parents are long gone, fool. After that, I was no longer afraid. The ancestors of the Lin family can see clearly who the real evildoer is. Casting me out of the Lin family suits me perfectly. I'll ask His Highness the Crown Prince to find me a good family, so I can step all over you and marry into the Eastern Palace in glory. Beat me once or starve me once, that would be even better. I'll tell His Highness the Crown Prince how my grandmother's second aunt and cousin have been treating me. I wonder what His Highness the Crown Prince will do to you all. The room fell deathly silent. Second aunt covered her mouth, looking panicked. The old madam was even more agitated, extending her finger to point at me with trembling hands. Unfilial, granddaughter. Before she could finish, drool ran down from the corner of her mouth. Her eyes were bloodshot red, her cheeks puffed up, trembling all over as if out of control. In her rage and anxiety, she suffered a stroke on the spot. Her body, once pampered and privileged, collapsed suddenly like a withered tree. The servants cried out in alarm and rushed over, frantically calling for a doctor. As for me, I turned and left without mercy. That night, Lin Ruin woke up, but the old madam had completely lost consciousness, lying in bed like a living corpse, needing to be attended to in everything. Lin Ruin knew things had gone terribly wrong and wrote a letter that very night, sending it by express courier to second uncle, who was serving as an official in another region. I intercepted the letter, opened it, read through it casually, and then smiled. Send it out to her as is. The maid asked curiously, Miss, why aren't you stopping the letter? I tapped the maid's forehead, smiling brightly. Let her have her sweet dreams for now. After all, from here on out, it'll all be nightmares. Did you all notice? Royi intercepted the letter, read it, and then sent it out as is. A normal person's thinking, stop the letter fey prevent her from calling for backup fey cut off her hope. Rui's thinking, let the letter go out. Feylet Lin Ruin think backup is coming Feylet, her hold on to hope fey when second uncle arrives. He'll face the fait accompli of the crown prince's marriage decree. Faith there is nothing he can save anymore. This is a dimensional reduction strike. Lin Ruin thought she was playing chess, but she didn't even know where the chessboard was. Rui never defended from start to finish. Every move she made was an attack, and every time she let her opponent go, she was digging an even bigger pit for them. Lin Rowan's greatest tragedy wasn't encountering a sister smarter than her, but that she had no idea how stupid she was. The letter was sent out. Lin Rowan eagerly awaited her own father, me second uncle, to return to the capital and stand up for her. But the nightmare came even faster than she imagined. The day after the Prince of Qin's consort entered the palace, the Empress issued an edict stating that Lin Rowan had shown impropriety before the throne, and punished her with daily training and discipline. The punishment matrons in the palace had extremely heavy hands. The punishment was really harsh, nearly tormenting her carefully maintained delicate face into a red and swollen mess. After taking her punishment, Lin Rowan still had to kneel at the Lin Manor's entrance for 6 hours to reflect on her mistakes. To avoid affecting me, the Empress specifically praised me as elegant and refined, a model among the noble ladies of the capital. So the only one being laughed at was Lin Rowan. Lin Rowan nearly had a breakdown. Her gaze was vacant as she knelt blankly at the entrance of Lin Manor. Her knees, almost worn through from kneeling, ached with piercing pain. But the physical torment wasn't the most painful part. Anyon scorned by the Empress, everyone wanted to step on. The young masters and noble ladies of the capital deliberately took detours past the Lin Manor entrance to watch the spectacle. Those shameful affairs of hers also spread wildly throughout the capital. The noble ladies mocked her for being indiscreet, failing to attach herself to the crown prince, and being despised by both the crown prince and empress, ending up in such a state. The young masters, on the other hand, embellished and spread all sorts of nasty gossip. Usually acts all pure and innocent, but secretly threw herself in the water on purpose to get close to the crown prince. Some busybodies even teased about it in front of the young prince. The young prince's face turned black as coal, feeling he'd been made a laughingstock, and he slammed his palm on the table, shattering it, then left in anger. Lin Rowan endured bitterly, only waiting for second uncle to return to the manor to stand up for her. Second uncle returned to the manor, but the joyous news of my betrothal to the crown prince also reached Ava Corporation on the same day. Several large chests of extravagant and precious rewards were transported into Ava Corporation, one after another. The eunuch, annoyed that Lin Rowan was blocking the way, berated her to move aside. Lin Rowan collapsed weakly on the ground, her body convulsing, her lips tightly pressed together. No one paid her any attention, not even her father, whom she longed for, turned a blind eye to her. Second uncle smiled obsequiously. My niece is fortunate to receive the favor of His Majesty and the Empress. Truly a blessing for Ava Corporation. He then scolded. This good-for-nothing daughter of mine has angered Her Majesty the Empress. I will deal with her severely. He wanted to completely expel Lin Rowan from Ava Corporation and sever their father-daughter relationship. This way he could both curry favor with me and the Empress, while also distancing himself from the situation. But Second Aunt was unwilling. Second Aunt first wiped her tears. Master or daughter has only made a small mistake and momentarily angered Her Majesty the Empress. Why must you be so heartless? Second uncle became uncertain as well. He was cunning and selfish. For the sake of his future prospects, he could use even his wife-daughter or his own mother. At this moment, he feared that being too clever might backfire, making the Empress think he was a heartless man who wouldn't even care for his own daughter, which would ruin his future prospects. He also feared that too light a punishment would anger the Empress and anger me. So he said, then send her to a Taoist temple to become a nun. Second Aunt was still unwilling. Wanner is stunningly beautiful, with great prospects ahead. Are you really so heartless? Second uncle was vexed and irritated, sneering coldly, a bright future. Wanner has been taught by you to not know the immensity of heaven and earth. Now being able to preserve her dignity, is Her Majesty showing mercy. And also, me showing mercy. At this point, you should be thinking about how to curry favor with the future crown princess. Tomorrow send our daughter to the Taoist temple and put an end to this matter. He was resolute and decisive, impatiently standing up about to fling his sleeves and leave. Unexpectedly, second aunt pounced on him and scuffled with him, her sharp nails even scratching his face. Stop pretending to be a good person. You had a part in causing big brother and sister in-laws' deaths back then too. You've gone mad. Second uncle flew into a rage and pushed her hard. A shrill scream rang out as second aunt's body fell heavily to the ground, immediately losing consciousness. The Lin manor was thrown into chaos once again. A physician was urgently summoned to the manor in the middle of the night and barely managed to save second aunt. However, she remained unconscious, and the situation was extremely critical. The physician sighed. Your manners, madam, has suffered severe injuries. I am afraid she'll be difficult to fully recover. Please make preparations early, master. Lin Ruin was dumbfounded again, her hair disheveled, her cheeks crisscrossed with red and blue marks, her knees in unbearable pain. She threw herself on second aunt and cried. Mother? Father? Her cries were shrill and desperate. An unreliable father, a mother whose life hung by a thread, and the old madam who had suffered a stroke and was unconscious, practically a living corpse. If second aunt were gone, she'd still have to observe 3 years of mourning. Under cover of night, she limped out of the residence and ran to the tavern to find the young prince. I stood in the shadows, quietly watching her seek her own death. A veil covered her scarred and battered face. Her eyes were brimming with tears, red and swollen. Lin Ruin leaned against the young prince like a delicate willow swaying in the wind, looking utterly pitiful. Young prince, would you be willing to marry me? Even if it is as a concubine, I want to be with you. She played pitiful, feigned weakness, thinking the young prince still couldn't forget about her. The young prince was dead drunk, his already dim brain even more useless now. And he mumbled an acknowledgement in his stupor. Lin Ruin took it as consent. Her eyes darted around, and she added, as long as you find a way to ruin Lin Ruyi's reputation, make it so she can't marry the crown prince, make her disappear from the capital completely, I'll marry you. The grinding hatred in her voice couldn't be hidden. The young prince was so drunk and dazed, he didn't hear what she said at all. A dissolute young master passed by and approached with a teasing laugh. Young prince, why not find a private room to sit in? What kind of spectacle is this? Oh my! Whose young lady is this? The dissolute young master laughingly reached to lift the veil. Lin Ruin cried out in alarm, hastily pushed the young prince away and ran off. After the debauched young master helped the young prince leave, I also quietly returned to the estate. The hidden guard sent by His Highness the Crown Prince to protect me stayed by my side. He had heard the entire exchange and asked respectfully, Miss Lin, do you need me to report this matter to the Crown Prince? I shook my head and smiled faintly. No need to trouble His Highness the Crown Prince over such a trivial matter. I can handle it. Lin Ruin, driven to a dead end, was still just a clown jumping around. Her methods were so crude they were laughable, I thought. It was time to let her taste some more bitterness. Before dawn, Lin Ruin was dragged out of bed. The matron was going to punish her again. But today, mixed in with her pained expression, was a trace of anticipation. She was waiting for the young prince to find a way to ruin my reputation. But what she didn't know was that after the young prince sobered up, recalling those words, he broke out in a cold sweat. He was reckless and hot-tempered, not clever, but he wasn't a fool either. He immediately told the whole truth to the Princess Royal in detail. The Princess Royal also broke out in a cold sweat after hearing it, and immediately entered the palace to tell the whole truth to the Empress in detail. The Princess Royal deeply resented Lin Ruin for toying with her son like he was a fool. That ungrateful girl should be severely punished, she said through gritted teeth. The Empress pondered in silence, then immediately summoned me to the palace, facing this most noble woman in all the capital. I lowered my head respectfully and said, my cousin has committed a grave error, and whatever punishment your highness imposes upon her is what she deserves. However, this concubine humbly begs your highness to give her a chance to repent and mend her ways, and spare her life. The eldest princess smiled and said, "A daughter, in-law who has caught imperial sister. In-law's eye is not only beautiful as a flower, but also upright in conduct and pure in nature. Congratulations, imperial sister, in-law." The empress also smiled faintly. A kind-hearted and soft-handed crown princess was a good thing for the imperial family. Not a bad thing. This palace grants it. The crown prince escorted me out of the palace. He did not ask me about Lin Ruin's matter, so I took the initiative to tell him. "Your Highness, actually I did it on purpose. Ending it all at once would be too quick and easy. I want Lin Ruin to live and suffer her punishment." I didn't want to hide it from him. Now that the imperial marriage decree had been issued, I wanted to gradually make him understand and accept that I am not just a daughter flower that can only cling to men. I have intelligence and courage. And I hold grudges. Besides being his wife, I can also be his strategist. Compared to emotions, binding together our interests would better ensure my position. The crown prince gently brushed my cheek, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. He said, "I understand it all. Ruyi, you need not be afraid. I understand you." His bright eyes held a tenderness I had never understood before. I grasped his hand, my eyes slightly stinging with tears. "Your Highness, thank you." The entire capital was discussing Lin Ruin's fate. She was sent to the imperial temple for spiritual cultivation, called cultivation, but actually like being imprisoned, having to do all kinds of rough work, unbearably bitter. Second uncle was also demoted 3 ranks for failing to properly guide Lin Ruin, and was exiled to a poor and remote area. I am afraid he'll be trapped in that remote place for the rest of his life. The crown prince once came to see me, saying with concern, "The Lin family has fallen, don't be afraid. I am your greatest support." I thanked him. In truth, I've never been afraid. Deep in my heart, I've never wholeheartedly relied on the crown prince either. People's hearts change easily. Vows of eternal love in this moment, sharing the same bed but different dreams in the future. These are all common occurrences. Besides, the crown prince has his white moonlight who is the apple of his eye. I believe in the crown prince's tender affection at this moment. But I believe in myself even more. The only one who can be your own support is yourself. The old madam's illness has become increasingly severe. All the servants in the household know that I've been ignored by the old madam since childhood. And my relationship with her is not deep. So gradually they all started slacking off. Once when I passed by the old madam's courtyard, I saw the servants cracking melon seeds, playing cards. The old madam opened her mouth crying out for water. Yet no one paid her any mind. The teacup was just an arm's length away from her, but she couldn't reach it. Not having turned over for a long time, her body grew weaker by the day, unbearably bitter. Before long she would pass away amid the torment of illness. Second aunt also didn't have much time left. Her beloved daughter was suffering at the imperial temple. The husband she married, along with his weeping concubine, was exiled to a remote place. I kept her alive daily with ginseng soup. The maidservant asked, "Miss, how long do we keep feeding her this ginseng soup?" I said offhandedly. "Feed it until the day I marry into the Eastern Palace. Then stop. What happens after that, leave it to fate." On the wedding day, the sun shone brightly. The weather was perfect. I finished dressing up and getting ready, got into the bridal sedan, and headed to the Eastern Palace. Halfway there, the sedan suddenly stopped, and a commotion of noise came through. "Crown Princess, there is a Taoist nun blocking the way up front. Won't let the sedan pass." The maidservant exclaimed. The only Taoist nun related to me could be Lin Ruin. Her heart-wrenching cries faintly came through. "I am the Crown Princess. You've got the wrong person. Hurry, dress me up. I am marrying the Crown Prince. I am going to be the Crown Princess." I didn't move. The Crown Prince came riding over on his tall horse. After checking that I was unharmed, his expression darkened, and he sternly commanded, "Take her away." I'd never seen him this angry before. The guards explained in a cold sweat. Your Highness, this woman's clinging to the horse's leg with a death grip. We can't pull her off. The Crown Prince said coldly, then just pull her off directly. No need to hold back. The guards swarmed forward, yanking Lin Ruin off the horse's leg with all their hands and feet. She struggled as she was yanked down to the ground, her dress covered in dust, disheveled and filthy as she was dragged to the roadside. Lin Ruin's muffled groans came through, pained and weak. Her Taoist robe was filthy and dirty, dust covering her face. She once wore gold and silver, looking down on me from above with contempt, mocking me as a weak and incompetent fool. Now, she collapsed by the roadside in a wretched state like mud. Without a shred of dignity left, I casually toyed with the phoenix hairpin on my forehead. In this life I had intended to spare her life and let her slowly suffer the consequences. But now it seems she is already half mad. That actually saves me the trouble. So be it. Whether she is gone mad or lives through her punishment while clear-headed. For the rest of her life, she is destined never to turn things around. About the scene where she blocks the wedding procession. Honestly, my feelings were pretty mixed the first time I read it. If you think carefully about Lin Ruin as a person, is she stupid? Yes. Is she bad? Yes. But how much of her badness and stupidity is innate? And how much was cultivated by that family of hers? In that whole household, from top to bottom, not a single person ever taught her what real skill means, what relying on yourself means. So the only skill she ever learned was playing weak, seeking sympathy, latching onto the powerful. And the day that skill set failed her, she completely fell apart. After the wedding, the Crown Prince and I lived in perfect harmony. The Crown Prince is dignified and gentle. The Empress is magnanimous and wise. Both are easy to get along with. It is just that there is one thing I find very strange. The Eastern Palace has no concubines at all. Not even any chambermaids. I paid my respects to the Empress, and took the opportunity to indirectly ask who the white moonlight in the Crown Prince's heart really is. Making preparations in advance is better than inadvertently angering the Crown Prince. The Empress covered her mouth and laughed. Crown Princess, do you truly not know? I shook my head. Mother Empress, please don't tease me. Well then, you should go ask the Crown Prince yourself. The Empress kept her mouth shut and laughed heartily. After returning to the Eastern Palace, I pondered over and over, and finally asked the Crown Prince whether he wanted to take concubines. If the Crown Prince has a woman he fancies, just tell me directly, and I'll bring her into the palace early so my younger sister won't suffer any grievances. The Crown Prince's hand paused while turning the page. He raised his eyes and stared at me intently. The Crown Princess is truly magnanimous and virtuous. It was as if I smelled vinegar. I was baffled. Deep in the night, with flickering candlelight, the tender words between husband and wife are an intimacy that outsiders cannot glimpse. Afterwards, I was exhausted and quickly fell asleep. Just as I was about to sink into dreams, warm breath suddenly came from beside my ear. It was the Crown Prince's hoarse voice. It is you, Lin Ruyi. I've been thinking of you for 2 lifetimes. After my parents passed away, I changed my name and studied under a teacher, and also learned chess from him. When the young Crown Prince snuck out of the palace to play, he once played a game of chess with me. He asked me what my name was and where I lived. I said my name was Lin Qiwa, and I lived at the Lin residence, 20 li east from East Street, then 30 li west, then 40 li east, then north. The Crown Prince secretly went looking for it. Then he stood staring blankly at a doghouse. The Crown Prince was kept under strict supervision. By the time he left the palace again, I had already stopped studying, and was dressed as a man doing business with the shopkeeper. Just like that, we missed each other completely. I understood why the Empress had been smiling all along. Because I was smiling too, smiling until tears kept falling. After clearing up the misunderstanding, he and I became a truly devoted couple. Just as in my previous life, I devised strategies for him, consolidated his position as Crown Prince, and cleared away obstacles. After he ascended the throne, He made our child the crown prince, and shared the realm with me. In the imperial harem, me was the only one. During court sessions, he and I sat as equals. The court officials were dumbfounded, cursing me for corrupting the court, and begging the emperor to change his mind. They even called me a demonic empress. The emperor flew into a rage and severely punished those remonstrating officials, making them suffer miserably. Finally, no one dared to make any more comments. Besides, my capabilities gradually won the officials' respect. My prestige soared, and I took the opportunity to demote the young prince to commoner status on the grounds of bullying a common girl. After all, I hold grudges. Days passed one after another, peaceful and tranquil, happy and healthy. I leaned on the emperor's shoulder and asked with a smile, "If that day I hadn't waited for you under the moon bridge, what would you have done?" "I would have gone to find you." The emperor kissed my forehead. "I would have told you that I wanted to marry you as the crown princess, to give you the highest honor." He understood my ambition and was willing to fulfill it. A gentle breeze came, and peach blossoms fell. I thought, this is an excellent life. What truly moved me about this story wasn't how satisfying the revenge was, but rather the character Rui's clarity from beginning to end. Every bit of her kindness was carefully calculated, but every bit of her ruthlessness also had its reasons. This is what a woman who has lived 2 lifetimes should be like. Rui lived 2 lifetimes, strategizing and planning flawlessly, calculating everyone to death. The only thing she didn't calculate was, she wasn't conquering the crown prince. The crown prince had also been searching for her for 2 lifetimes. She thought she was performing an intricately designed political drama. Little did she know that in the crown prince's eyes, this was an "I finally found you" love story. She calculated against the whole world, but failed to account for one person who truly loved her. And this person happened to be the one she chose. Although the story has concluded, I feel there is so much I haven't expressed in detail to everyone. Sisters, come vote. Drop your number in the comments. Crown Prince's perspective storyline from meeting a little girl who called herself Lin Qiwa at the tutor's place in his youth, To staring blankly at the doghouse, To silently protecting her in his past life, despite her being his younger brother's wife, To recognizing her at first sight when they reunited at the moon bridge in this life. How many stories are hidden behind all this? Complete past life route. How did Rui step by step help the young prince rise to power in her past life? What were the prince's feelings when she served as his strategist? See exclusive Imperial Favor daily life route Rui, and the prince's daily life after marriage. How does she battle wits with court officials? How does the emperor protect her? What is their sweet daily life like?